Hi everybody, and welcome to this Tech Talk. My name is Pieter Dubois, I'm a technical architect at Cegeka. In one of my previous videos, we've discussed DualWrite, an out-of-the-box integration platform we use to integrate data between Microsoft Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement and Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. In today's video, we'll have a closer look at an add-on for DualWrite that Microsoft has developed to address some data model misalignments between F&O and CE, the party and global address book solution. We'll zoom in on what it is and how to set it up, which data model misalignments we're talking about, and how the add-on solves these problems, and finally, some of the pros and cons of using this solution. The Party and Global Address Book solution is an add-on solution for DualWrite that is installed on top of the standard DualWrite applications. Its goal is to tackle the data model misalignment between F&O and CE regarding everything that concerns persons and organizations, the so-called parties, and the misalignment between everything address-related. The add-on is available as a free app on Microsoft App Stores. Installing the app is easily done with only a few clicks. When the installation is complete, some additional configuration has to be performed in CE and on the DualWrite configuration page, but luckily, these steps are all very well described in the Microsoft documentation. When you're installing the add-on on top of a pre-existing DualWrite setup, additional steps need to be performed to upgrade to the new model. But we'll discuss that later in this video. For now, let's have a look at the two key concepts that are handled by the add-on. First of all, let's discuss the party concept. A party is a concept known only in the Finance and Operations application. It's a person or an organization that is involved in your business. As you can see on this image, each person and organization is a type of party that plays one or more roles within one or more legal entities. Some information that is not role or context specific is stored on the party level, like the name of an organization or the first and last name of a person. Some of the data that depends on the role and the legal entity is stored on the related role-based records. For example, the customer group on a customer. As you can imagine, the data model behind this is very elaborate on F&O side. However, on CE side, we only have accounts and contacts, with a very simple relationship between the two, and no out-of-the-box way to handle the concept of having multiple roles for different organizations. With the Party add-on solution, Microsoft aims to replicate the F&O data model in the Customer Engagement app by introducing a number of new tables and fields. The most important new table is, without doubt, the Party table. By using this table, data is now clearly separated. Data that is the same for an organization or person regardless of its role, like the name, is stored on the Party record. Data that is specific for a person or organization within a certain role or context is stored on the account or the contact record. By using the link between the party table and the contact or account table, it now becomes possible to create multiple role-based records for the same party that all relate to each other, instead of creating unrelated duplicates. In order to be able to add multiple relationships between a person and an organization, Microsoft added another interesting table, the Contact for Party table. The contact table in CE has now been overloaded, making it possible to indicate that a contact is a B2C customer and/or a B2C vendor. But at the same time, it's still possible to simply store contacts as contact persons for an organization. To indicate that a contact is a contact person for a customer or a vendor, the Contact for Party table is used instead of the existing parent-account relationship between accounts and contacts. This way, we can still assign contact persons for an organization and mark a contact as the primary contact like we could before, but we can now assign multiple accounts to the same contact as well. On top of that, we can now associate contacts to other contacts, for example, to assign contact persons for a B2C customer or vendor. Besides these changes in the data model, a lot of logic is added to the Customer Engagement app as well, both on the front end on the forms as in the back end. Allow me to give you two examples. When talking about back-end logic, What jumps out is the logic that keeps the data consistent between records in CE internally. Like I said, party information, like the name of an organization, is stored on the party record. But some of that information is actually still stored on all related role-based records, so on all related accounts as well. Now, let's say you need to change the name of that organization. The beauty of this logic allows you to do this on the party record, but also on any of the related account records. No matter where you change the information, it gets updated on the party record and on all role-based records. I have to say, that's a very clever implementation by the good people at Microsoft. When it comes to front-end logic, my favorite example is the pre-filling logic that is implemented on various forms in the application. For example, when creating an account from an existing party, a lot of common data is automatically copied over from the selected party to the new account record, reducing the amount of data that needs to be entered again manually, even though it's already known in the system. The second key concept of the solution is the global address book part. Let's dive into that now. The global address book is another concept that is only known in finance and operations. It's a directory of both postal and electronic addresses of the organizations and individuals that participate in your business. The global address book can store and handle as many postal and electronic addresses as required, and every address can have one or more roles and purposes. Addresses in F&O are stored globally and attached to the parties, because no matter what the role of a party is, the address information remains the same. In CE, however, postal addresses are handled differently. The addresses are stored in fields on the account or contact entity. The contact table can hold 3 addresses, the account table 2. And although these addresses are getting synced to the standard customer address table, this table has so many major drawbacks, basically rendering it useless for integration purposes. Electronic addresses, like email addresses, phone numbers, websites for example, are simply stored in fields on the account and contact table, and are not stored in a related table. The global address book solution fixes these misalignments between the way F&O and CE handle their addresses, again by adding some new tables and fields and additional front and back-end logic in CE. For postal addresses, a new set of tables is introduced, of which the postal address table is the most important one. This table makes it possible to add as much addresses as you need and links them to the party instead of the role-based account or contact record. Addresses in this new table can have multiple purposes, which are aligned with the F&O purposes. And additional logic is added to ensure that the address fields on the contact and account table itself can still be used, and that addresses stored in those fields are synced with the new postal address table. For electronic addresses, the same was done. A new table called electronic address was added, where different types of electronic addresses can be stored. Again, these electronic addresses are linked to the party and not to the role-based contact or account. These addresses have a type, like phone, email or URL, and can also have one or more purposes. And again, it's possible to indicate if an electronic address is the primary one for this party. Additional logic is added to keep the electronic address fields on the account or the contact table in sync with this newly added table. And I have to say, again, the way the people at Microsoft have implemented this is amazing. You can change an address wherever you like, and it gets changed on all related records as well. Obviously, the most important part, the actual goal of this add-on, is to make sure that data is integrated seamlessly between CE and F&O. For that purpose, we get a number of new or updated dual write maps. And by simply doing some minor configurations and enabling these maps, the integration is set up and ready to go within the blink of an eye. I'm guessing it's pretty clear by now that we at Cegeka are a fan of the new add-on solution. Let's have a look at some of the reasons why. First up, we're talking about an add-on on top of dual write. So all the advantages of dual write that we discussed in a previous video apply to this add-on as well. It's easy to configure, it's out of the box, and is completely free. The next pro and I can't stress this enough, is that Microsoft really did an amazing job in unifying the two data models as much as possible by bringing two F&O concepts over to CE. Although the way of working in CE is now a bit different when using the add-on, and users might be a bit overwhelmed at first, after a while and maybe a bit of training, the new data model and way of working is pretty intuitive and actually makes sense. The pre-filling and validation logic that was implemented across the application is a big help for faster user adoption too, in our opinion. It might not seem this way for the untrained eye because the configuration of these new dual write features is so easy, but what Microsoft has delivered under the hood is exceptional too. They have succeeded in delivering a truly bidirectional, easy to set up synchronization mechanism for what can be considered core data in both your CRM and your ERP processes. Some more good news is that for most parts of the commonly known scenarios in CE, like the prospect to cash scenario, changes were done to make sure that these new components are integrated and usable as much as possible. For example, quotes and orders have been updated and now have a relation to the postal address table for address information and to the contact for party table to indicate the contact person. And by simply modifying the security setup a bit, it's even possible to use the new way of working in the Power Apps portals as well. So, is it all roses and unicorns then? Unfortunately not. We have discovered some downsides in this add-on and we'll be happy to share those with you as well. First of all, and for me this is the biggest drawback, is the impact on performance. As mentioned before, a lot of under-the-hood backend logic has been added to create records automatically or to keep data in sync internally in CE. But there's a performance penalty to pay. Let's say I want to create an account record with two postal addresses, an email address and a phone number. When I hit save, next to the actual creation of the account itself, in the backend a lot more is happening. A new party record is created, records are being created in the postal and electronic address tables, and all of these records are being synced to F&O through dual write. And this takes time. In some projects where we implemented the Global Address Book add-on, we saw response times of up to 15 seconds, which is clearly not acceptable. A solution for this is on the roadmap of Microsoft, but no ETA is provided currently. Next up, as I explained, a lot of data gets synced internally between tables in CE. For example, when updating the address on the account record itself, the address gets updated on the related postal address record, and the other way around. Or when updating general data on a contact record, the related party and all other contacts related to that party get updated. This works perfectly for out-of-the-box fields, but there's no way to add a custom field to this sync. For example, we can easily add a relationship to a custom country table on the account or the party table to replace the standard free text field, but we cannot add this custom lookup to the list of fields that gets synced between the entities. We have asked Microsoft if this is on the roadmap, but it's not, and there's no plan to add it. Partners need to implement this logic themselves, which is possible, but obviously it has an impact on development cost, project delivery time, and your technical setup. Next downside we have noticed is the inconsistency between the new postal address table and the address fields on the contact and the account table, which is actually by design. For example, when using the address fields on the account form in CE to create an address, address 1 fields automatically map to a postal address record of type delivery, and address 2 creates an invoice address. However, when creating any address in the F&O or in the postal address table in CE, the first created address ends up in the address 1 fields and the second address in the address 2 fields, regardless of the selected purpose. Clearly, this can create confusion. Microsoft explicitly states on their documentation that we should use the new tables for address management instead of the fields, but not all customers can or want to work this way. Another downside we want to point out is the look and feel of the forms and views that were added as part of the add-on. Although I would like to mention first that update after update we do see improvements coming into the application here. But in general, the forms and views still feel kind of sloppy and badly configured. Fields seem to be a bit thrown on there. They're scattered across the forms and views, and sometimes it's unclear for users what some fields do and why they do or do not have to be filled out. Relevant or even required fields are not immediately visible on the first tab, causing frustration when trying to save a record and not immediately seeing which field needs to be entered. Also, the contact for party table, which is very important as it links contacts to customers or vendors, is pretty unclear. Even people that have been working with the add-on quite some time still hesitate from time to time what they need to enter here to correctly link records. Let's just say it doesn't really feel normal that we need to spend a couple of days only to clean up forms and views and to make the whole thing a bit more accessible, intuitive and usable. Another downside I want to mention is the incorporation of the Global Address Book add-on in the customer engagement apps and their scenarios. I did mention before that the add-on plays nicely together with most apps and scenarios. However, not all of them. The party and Global Address Book concept is pretty decently incorporated in the sales module, but for other modules or components, there's no integration of the add-on at all. For example, for the customer service module, or components like email tracking or automatic record creation. And even in the scenarios that are supposed to be using the add-on, we see some parts of the scenarios that are, weirdly enough, not taken into account. For example, for me, it makes no sense to add a relationship to the new contact for party table on the quote and order table, but not on the opportunity table, the table where all quotes and orders start. And all these things may seem like small issues, and in a way they are indeed. And of course, through customization and some development, they are fixable, but it's just not a good implementation if it needs fixing in the first place. And finally, transitioning from a regular dual write implementation or a system without dual write to a Global Address Book enabled setup isn't as easy as Microsoft implies in their documentation. As we said, the add-on solution provides a lot of new tables and fields. Existing data in your application needs to be upgraded to that new data model. It's very clear to us that this is not done easily and requires a thorough analysis and an upgrade project. Microsoft does provide documentation as well as Azure Data Factory templates to assist you in upgrading your existing data, but the provided templates only cover some tables, but not all of them, and are only usable for out-of-the-box situations. The statement by Microsoft is that if you have customizations, you need to alter the templates, but without any further instruction. And besides that, in our opinion, existing components need to be reviewed as well. For example, custom development, the security setup, other existing dual write maps, and so on. So it's clear that for existing implementations, it's not a matter of simply installing the add-on and be done with it. To sum up, we at CGK are a big fan of this add-on, which provides a very good solution for the problem of the misaligned data model of parties and addresses between CE and F&O. Especially for new dual write enabled implementations, even though there are indeed some downsides and gaps to take into account, we would not hesitate to install this add-on early on in the project, as it makes syncing parties and their addresses so much easier. For existing implementations, we would advise you to do a thorough analysis first of your existing implementation, but even then it's still possible to implement the add-on. We at CGK are happy to advise and assist you in your integration requirements, so feel free to reach out to us or to drop any questions you might have in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and remember to subscribe and turn on notifications by hitting the bell icon so you'll be the first to know when we release new videos.